Alright, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to tell you a traditional soft hackle pattern. And I'm going to put a little trick in here to keep the body from coming apart, because the one I just tied, I forgot to do that, and right at the end it came apart. So I'm not going to show you that, but I'll admit it. It's early. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. At any rate, you can tie these on a variety of hooks. This one is a Tiemco 100 SP size 16. And I'm going to start off with some black A-dot uni. You could tie this on a Tiemco 3769 also, which is a standard length 2 extra heavy nymph hook, or 1 extra heavy nymph hook, depending on how deep in the water column you wanted to fish this fly. But I'm going to start this thread about 2 eye lengths back from the hook eye, and I'm just going to make a nice smooth and even thread base back to maybe just a little short of the bend, about even with where the barb would be on the hook if it had a barb. Give you a little better view there. And for the body, I'm going to use some rayon floss. This is Unifloss, and I'll use orange, but you could use whatever color you like. I'm going to cut about a 6-inch section off, and you can see this strand is fairly thick. And for this size fly, I could probably get away with the whole strand, but I want to show you, if you want to tie these smaller, how to separate this floss. So what I'll do is I'll grab it in the middle, and I'll rotate my fingers opposite directions and unwind it. And you can see how that'll separate into 2 strands. And if I carefully fold that over in my fingers, get my scissor tips in there, like so, I can divide this strand in half. And I end up, if I can get a hold of it here, with a half a strand that's much thinner. So what I'll do here is I'm going to tie this in with the short end facing back, like so. I've got the long end facing out over the hook eye here. And I'm going to wrap smoothly back over this, and your floss, your front end, will tend to kind of carry with your thread. You just got to unwind it every now and again. But I want to leave this little tag hanging out the back, almost like a tail. It's not going to be a tail, but we're going to leave that in there. I'll show you why here in just a second. And I'll bring my thread smoothly back forward again. Right back up to where I started. Now I'm going to take this floss, and I'm going to wrap from the front to the back. Ooh. And if that floss starts to spread out, let me get that where you can see it. See how it starts to spread out a bit? I can roll that in my fingers, sort of cord that up a bit so it doesn't spread too much. And I find it's easier to keep that tight together, my fingers out of the way, if you hold it close to the hook. If you hold it far away, it'll start to spread pretty wildly. I'll get a couple more turns coming forward from the bend, then I'll fold that tag forward and catch it. And what that tag is going to do, I'll just wrap forward over that, so it'll keep that floss from sliding off the bend of the hook. And when I get to the front, I can tie them both off and trim that all out. Get a couple turns on there, and I'll turn that. You can just sort of barely see that little fold, like a wing case almost. That's going to keep that floss from coming off the bend of the hook. Now, it's not a bad idea to take a dubbing needle, something smooth metal, or they actually sell burnishing tools to do this, that are a little glass rod. But see how that smoothed the body off? I just ran the edge of the needle across the body, and that smooths that out a bit, which I'm sure, gosh, makes it 37% more effective out on the water. So you should probably do that. Now I'm going to take a little pinch of Hare's Mask dubbing, and again, you can use any variety of dubbing here, and just a tight little strand of this dubbed onto the thread. It's not going to take much. I'm going to build a little ball of dubbing here at the front edge of the body, sort of over that tie off, And then any of those extra long guard hairs I can either trim or pull out, like so. So far, pretty simple little fly. I'm going to make a thread base on that front edge of the hook. And now what I want to do is grab a partridge feather. I've got a few sitting here in front of me. We want one that's got as few broken fibers as we can get away with. I think this one will do. So let me hold this up. This is from the top of the cape up toward the head of the bird. And what I want to do is I want to strip all this fluff off the bottom end. And in the case of this fly, that little tuft on the end, I don't need to worry about that. In the case of this fly, you can see how some of the tips of the feather fibers are broken. It's not really a big deal on this fly because I'm going to tie it in by the tip, and most of those are going to get sort of buried out of the way. I'm going to create a separation point like so. Typically I'll wet that tip just a bit. It just makes it hold together a little better. I'm going to tie this in by its tip with the inside of the feather toward the hook. Anchor that down good and tight there. And one of my little tricks for tying soft hackles is this tip end. You could come in and cut that out, but it's short enough in this case that I can just fold it back and I'll wrap over it again. And that's going to make that a lot more secure on my tie-in. And you can see, let me turn that this way, that'll sort of blend into the hackle collar. You could, if it was a little long, you could come in and trim it out now, but I like that fold. That makes that a lot more secure when we go to wrap it. And I'll leave it in. So I'm going to grab the feather in my hackle pliers. I'll wet my fingers just a bit, and I'm going to fold this feather back. Now I'm really not trying to crease this, I'm just trying to sort of sweep those fibers back. And I want to make sure that my pliers, you've got to be fairly delicate with this, that my pliers stay oriented so that the stem is leading. And I'm just going to go a turn or two. You probably won't get more than a turn or two. You can see I got about 1.5 turns. And I'll tie off on that bare stem. You can see I'm using my pinky here to catch the thread as it comes around. That just keeps it from bouncing and coming off the hook eye. I'll trim my stem out. And just a few turns to cover that stem. Now notice I didn't move any of the hackle when I wrapped that thread on there. You don't want to wrap back over that. You're not sweeping that back like a prince nymph. This is a fairly soft feather. Then I want to whip finish there. And that one I'm a lot more happy with. Yeah, that's more like it. You can see that tip just barely shows down in there, but it's just a little bit more fibers. But you can see how sparse that fly is. That's the whole idea of a soft hackle. Kind of a caddis emerger type pattern. I see some little piece on there. Oh, maybe that was just fuzz. Sort of a soft hackle caddis emerger pattern. Can cross for a mayfly, can cross for a lot of stuff. Just general little buggy critter. I used to fish these a fair bit back in the day, and there's guys that are all about them. And I'm sure somebody will comment like, "I've fished soft hackles every day for the last 37 years." I bet you have. I bet you have. That's good for you. Tell us all about it. Tell us more. At any rate, I'm Charlie Craven. It's 6:15 a.m. and that's the fly that I've tied for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll have more coming for you. Hit like and subscribe, and I don't know, get a tattoo. You guys take care. Have a good morning.